Hi, I'm Cockney Black. This is Burger Sauce, and I'm going to give you a roundup of what I'm not too chuffed about, what's happened this week. So Puff Daddy was saying that there's basically a clip of him on Instagram, maybe you've seen it, and he's saying that black people should only be buying. The black community should only drink black-owned drinks.
Bro, come on, don't do black man don't own that. Anything black man don't own, black man don't drink. Black man don't drink. Shit. Black man don't drink.
I mean, to me, he's just waffling. And the reason why he's waffling is because he's out here buying Gucci, buying Louis Vuitton, buying all these brands. They're not owned by black people, so why are you telling black people to only buy a black-owned brand? To me, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it just goes to show that not everyone that has money and power and success talks sense, because to me, that's just a load of rubbish, obviously, you know? Another thing was Zeze was talking about Generation Z demanding too much from young men. I don't think it's a Generation Z thing. I think it's just there's these women have always existed. There's always going to be women that demand a lot from men. And I feel like as a man, you have to decide when those demands should be met. I don't think there's a problem with women demanding stuff from their guys, from the men they're with, if they're at that level, if he can afford it. But I definitely don't feel like men should be pressured into buying things for women that is too much to their pocket, or, you know, they feel like there's like a social pressure on them to do it. I feel like if you're comfortable with a woman, you've been together long enough, you're in a serious enough relationship or marriage, whatever it is, and she was to say, look, I need some money for the week. If you can afford it, if you don't feel like she's just taking advantage, carry on. I don't feel like there's a problem with that. I feel like the issue is if you meet someone and you're new, it's early on, and then she starts demanding from you. To me, it's kind of like, well, we're not quite there yet. So I don't feel like it's a Generation Z thing. There are just women like that, and there are always going to be women like that. And guys, don't feel pressured by women trying to force you or take things from you or demand from you, and you're not quite ready to do that. Also, this week I saw an advert by Nickelodeon promoting LGBT and homosexuality to our children.
Baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people, and black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color.
On maybe the world's biggest TV network, to me, mate, they need to just F off so far as I'm concerned. If schools today are saying you're not allowed to teach your children gender roles, they're saying you should leave your kids, you can't force them to be male or force them to be female, and now they're pushing this non-binary thing in schools. How are they then allowing an LGBT advert, or whatever you want to call it, allowed to be pushed onto children? If you can't teach them to be male and female, then you shouldn't be teaching them to be homosexual or whatever else. You shouldn't be teaching your little ones that at all. So far as I'm concerned, that's a bang out of order, way out of line. It shouldn't be going on. So we saw in a week the first England game. At the start, our football players, whether you think they're good or not, whether you think England are good or not, they were taking a knee, which we know is for a good cause. We know Colin Kaepernick started that in a way to stand up against the oppression and unfair treatment of black people in America. So we know that that's for a good cause, and that's been continued here. And don't get me wrong, I genuinely think that there needs to be more done. There needs to be some kind of follow-up on the taking a knee. It can't just be that. There has to be more action, more change, and more direction for that taking a knee. But what is, I wouldn't say it's racist. It's for me, it's more like ignorance and stupidity. Although racism is a form of ignorance, it's kind of like a when you see these guys booing, taking a knee, and you have an understanding of what it is, they're booing black players, they're booing white players, they're booing their own players for standing up against racism. Then at the same time, the black player scores and they're standing up and cheering. Like, it's so far in the realms of, like I said, ignorance and stupidity. It's almost like, it's shocking. For me, those guys, girls, those guys that we saw, what do you do with them? Do you sit down and talk to them? Do you ignore them? Do you try and educate them? You know, if they were here right now, I could have a chat with them and you can try and clue them up on what the whole situation is with George Floyd, but who wasn't aware of it? Who isn't aware that the reason why Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee is because of what's happened in America? So, yeah, I feel like that there needs to be higher consequences, I feel, for these guys that are being racist. But again, there needs to be a kind of direction towards bans, lifetime bans from football games, suspensions, points from clubs. So yeah, that's my view. One thing I haven't covered. I also saw on Made You Think's page, there were some people hating on Arrdee because he's white. I do see that a lot on social media, say black social media, there's this kind of like, there's a certain mindset of some black people on social media where they're kind of complaining about black people being open in our community. There's this kind of mindset that we let everybody in, and I don't see what the problem is with that. I think if you're good at something, you should be praised. If you're not good at it, then you should be berated or advised. So if they're hating on a guy just because he's white, what's that except racism? That's all it is. And again, I think I've addressed this issue before. There's too much justification of black racism towards white people, but as soon as anything is racist said towards black people, then it's kind of, not that it shouldn't be highlighted, it should be highlighted, make that straight. No racism's okay, but I don't feel like there's enough condonement of black racism towards white people within these comment sections. And I've addressed that before, and I feel like people are afraid to stand up and speak out against racism across the board, no matter who it's directed at. Especially when you get this kind of mindset as well that if you're black, you can't be racist because racism's institutionalized, and because there aren't any black institutions, then we can't be racist towards white people. This is just a complete, to me, it doesn't make any sense. If there's a problem with Arrdee blowing because he's the one white guy on a black, with a group of black guys, but you would produce your product and you would want it to sell within the community, of course, as I said, you wouldn't complain if other people were buying it. You would want it to blow. You would want the success off your product. So again, these people, the mindset's small, and I feel like a lot of people jump on the bandwagon. They see it, they don't think for themselves. They follow it. They do. Like, you know what I'm saying? To wrap things up, normally I work in the building trade, so it's kind of like you might get on a job, you might meet some nice people, some people that are kind of hard to get on with. I have quite, not to be arrogant or boast, but I have a fairly easy life, yeah? And this week, for the past couple of weeks, I've had hardly any drama. And I feel like there's moments like this, we're all going to have them, where you need to be quite appreciative when your weeks go nice and smooth, when you've been paid, everything's fine at home, everything's fine with your friends, your family, and just be really appreciative and thankful to God especially. I say Allah obviously, thankful to Allah for your situation and how things are going. Something else I keep on seeing actually that I find good but a kind of unusual is that people say, I appreciate this, I appreciate that, and that's good. But if you're not directing it to any higher power or any kind of like something greater than yourselves, who actually are you saying thank you to? People say, I'm thanking the universe. I see it a lot on Instagram. I'm thanking the universe for this. I'm putting that. I'm trying to be really thankful and grateful. So who are you directing that towards? So far as we're concerned, in Islam, what we say is that if you thank Allah for whatever you have, He's going to give you more. That's how it is. But what I don't expect these people to be, they're not Muslim. But when they're giving out these thanks and being appreciative, I just feel like maybe they should be directing it to the one that created them. Even if they don't want to say Allah, maybe they don't believe in Islam, they don't believe in Christianity, they don't want to say God, but you should direct it towards, even if you want to say the creator, direct it in a certain direction. Otherwise, who's it? Who exactly are you being appreciative and thankful to? So yeah, this is Burger Sauce from Cockney Black. Like, comment, subscribe.